Hello once again everybody, welcome to the Trivian Show where we play either a critically acclaimed game or a critically panned game and decide if it deserves its rating. Today's episode is on Halo Combat Evolved, and be warned there will be gameplay spoilers, though I will avoid any story spoilers. So some basic information. Halo Combat Evolved was released in 2001 as the Xbox's launch title. It is a first-person shooter, but it introduced all sorts of new mechanics to the FPS lineup. These include diverse enemies, vehicles, and stunning visuals. All these things are loved by most fans and critics, but for good reason. And no game is flawless, and Halo Combat Evolved does have its own problems. Some of these being the sometimes confusing level design, the constant spawning of enemies in flood levels, which can become very frustrating, and sometimes repetitive levels where you're just gunning down tons of enemies, which gets stale after a while. But hey, pros and cons aside, let's look at level design. The first level is an extremely good level for tutorials. After the intro cutscene and some controller settings, you learn you're on a spaceship and you're being attacked by enemies called the Covenant. Your first goal is to reach the ship's bridge. You do this by getting over certain obstacles that show you mechanics like jumping and crouching, and you also get to see enemies all over the place and also take some damage. This not only introduces you to the enemy, but also shows you the mechanic of the recharging shield, which was covered quickly in the first room. Then you reach the bridge and receive a magnum from Captain Keyes. He doesn't keep it loaded, so you have to go find some ammo for it. This introduces the mechanic of walking over guns to pick up any remaining ammo in them. You fight some basic enemies, which gets you used to some of the combat, and last but not least, you get put into a few different dark hallways to introduce the flashlight, and you're ready to go. You reach the end of the level, and you get another cutscene. So starts the second level. This level has all the things the first level has, but a bit more challenging. In this level, you're also introduced to vehicles. A bit into the level, you receive a Warthog, basically a truck with a mounted turret on the back. You have to drive this thing through a small plane to get used to the controls, and then you put into a cave. This cave shows you the more complicated vehicles maneuvers such as tight turning and ramps. You keep the Warthog for most of the level and also do some things on foot. On to the third level, which doesn't have any vehicles, but still uses the same enemies and mechanics of the last two levels. This level is quite a bit more challenging and does have some repetitive gameplay due to the constant waves of enemies. Most levels throughout the game are like this level. There are levels with vehicles and interesting gameplay, such as the jailbreak level, but beside that, the gameplay is set and you're ready to play the rest of the game. The gameplay is mostly fun, and there are lots of interesting plot points and storylines I won't mention for spoiler reasons. There is a fair amount of Easter eggs which can only be found on the hardest difficulty. And after you beat the game, the replay value isn't exactly the best. But there is cooperative play and some fun games you can play with your friends on custom maps. You can play with 4-player split screen on these, or do System Link to get up to 16 players. But besides that, your adventure on Halo Combat Evolved is over. So does this game deserve its critical acclaim? In our opinion, it does. Most of the things critics point out are extremely innovative and fun, even though it is sometimes repetitive. We would highly recommend playing it. If you have an Xbox 360 with Xbox Live, you can now download it for only $10. And of course, thank you to the Elite for the gameplay footage he provided us. That's the end of this video. If you liked, feel free to leave a comment on what game we should do next. And remember, if you want to click that subscribe button, it's totally up to you. Thanks for watching.